It's 5 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Whoops. These things get away. As we lose one of our members, so there's only two of us, you can't disappear. There you go. So the reason we called this meeting tonight is, as many people know, we hired attorney Dan Hill to review all of the documentation of the 40B project and give us an opinion on whether everything has been done the way he felt it should be. He has provided a lengthy letter to the board, and it's going to be my recommendation that we release this report in full as a public record, that we submit it to the zoning board, and that the zoning board submit it to the state. I don't know if we want to, I don't want to kill it. Do you want to go into
So,
it?
I can.
If you want to summarize?
Sure.
Thank you.
So, as Chair Laura had mentioned, the board had retained the services of attorney Dan Hill to evaluate the record associated with 40B application for 47 Main Street. The document was provided to the board as a confidential attorney-client correspondence. And, for the board to basically identify what it wants to do it. So one of the things the board would have to decide and vote to do would be to release it as a document. And as you said, Laura, one of the things that the board can do is vote to release it and send it to the ZBA for the ZBA to include in the record for the 40B. A quick sort of overview as far as the document identifies a number of areas, everything from the building design, the characteristic compliance with DHCD guidelines for design of 40Bs. It identified additional issues with the record as it relates to provision and supportive documentation for site distance. It identified some best practices associated with the design of the drainage system, providing access all around the basin. It identified other site-related issues pertaining to location and access for trash, location and access for delivery vehicles, moving vehicles. I'm sorry, what? Fire trucks. It also identified the length of the road as a potential issue, should trees that are being retained fall down, that there's no second means of access, that it could impact safety. See.
Identify stormwater management.
Yep, there was additional issues associated with providing stormwater, and specifically about some of the minimum vertical separations and site specific issues associated with parking and access for residents to the building. And even issues with the placement of EV chargers where the cables from those chargers would go across sidewalks. So there's a number of issues. They vary in severity from things where you can easily change the location for the chargers, but to more substantive issues that the board has already provided comments on the record, specifically about the design and architecture of the building and ultimately the density. Specific to the architecture of the buildings and the overall density.
It's more or less an urban development instead of a suburban, right?
That's within his letter, he made that comparison. Also, just I did receive and provided a copy of the email for both of you from Brett. He apologizes he could not attend. He had a last minute family item that came up. He did have some comments on the project and the letter as well. You can either read it into the record or.
Can, I can just read the whole email.
Okay.
From Brett, because he was not able to make it tonight. Joe, this is to read at the meeting if you deem it appropriate, necessary, or helpful. My apologies for not being able to be with you today. I had an unanticipated family obligation. Given the importance of this discussion, I wanted to share my perspective in writing. My general comments are that it's critical we continue to advocate for our town's best interests, including development of affordable housing, as we have in preparing our housing production plan. We can and must work to do so in a way that honors our town's history, our current residents, and our vision for what our town will become as we grow to meet the needs of the future. In that spirit and specific to today's discussion, I support sharing Dan's findings with the ZBA and, if deemed appropriate, the applicant. We must continue to work with all stakeholders towards a solution that addresses the board's concerns as noted in our initial response to the proposed project and reinforced with Dan's most recent findings. I believe significant adjustments to the scope, scale, and site plan for the project are required before we can support issuance of a comprehensive permit. Thank you, Brett. Do I hear a motion to release this report to the public?
Release the document from Attorney Dan Hill to the residents of town to the public.
I second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, or it's both of us in that. Brett would jump in as well. And I would also agree, I think it's incumbent upon the board to reach out to Mr. Lovisar and work cohesively, because he has really been wonderful through this process. He has tried his very best, and we will continue to work hopefully hand in hand. So that is why we are here tonight. We do have a couple of extra copies. And I was not planning to take comments from the public. This will be presented to the ZBA. This will be presented to the ZBA before their hearing next week. This will be made part of the public record in the 40B hearing.
Why do we come here if you're not going to accept comments?
Well,
I think we could pass this out.
we can pass this out. Would you like to see it?
Sure.
No, it's not on the website because this was under.
Not yet, yeah.
That'd be great.
We have some copies. I mean, I just don't, before it gets to the ZBA, it was confidential. It's now public.
Should be the taxpayer paid.
You're welcome. And two more. Okay. We'll give this to, I'm sorry, David. I was gonna say Deanna. Okay, if you want to make a comment, Kevin, yes, please. Okay,
I've asked people very poignant questions. I've only got, basically bulldozed Bill Andrews. He's not an engineer. I think he can understand the report just as good as I can. He won't read. Okay, I've asked serious questions, seriously. Nobody's got back any responses. There happens to be a state highway between my property and where the building site is. They can't, they're going to be cutting a road in front of the catch basin. They can't put their catch basins within 30 feet of that road. All that water's going to come on my property. Everybody just seems to let it go. It's not a big deal. It's obviously a groundwater problem now.
if I'm not mistaken, I believe when you read Mr. Hill's report, the catch basins were specifically both above ground and below ground were addressed. And they're, well, this is,
State's problem. They can't address the state, they can't touch the state.
okay, well, there were, I know in the letter, there were issues with the basins.
You took until 2 years ago, this has been going on long, this process for a long time. I basically had to drop the catch base into 140 before anybody acknowledged. Now, how many engineers walked past that catch basin, saw that head wall? That catch basin and that head wall were installed by the state of Massachusetts. There's one on the north side, there's one on the south side. They were not made to work in conjunction and drain all the water off there. They were both made to drain runoff on the floor. That's it, okay? So if you look at north side, conveniently, the stream's been buried. I don't know where conservation is going to bend on all this. I know if I did that on my property, I'd be in a lot of trouble. But the stream has been buried. If you look at my side, the bottom of the head wall is completely rotted off from excess water flow. Okay, my property's been destroyed, and nobody seems to care. And the law is the law. It seems like, when things happen, if I want to do something, I have to follow the law. These seem like recommendations. And I'd like to talk to Dan Hill. But all this, to be honest, it seems like that's something. Results.
Well, I know you've been upset, Kevin. I've been at all of the meetings. I've listened to your comments. And I do believe they're valid. And I know you feel like you're banging your head against the wall. We submitted our initial comments and then the board voted a couple of, wait a minute, just a couple.
One more water by law is going to go on to over the It's simple math. You take out vegetated surface, impervious surface, and you put in impervious surface that's pitched towards a catch base. You can't tell me I'm not going to get more water on my property.
Well, I think, Kevin, this is why this select board asked for a completely independent review. I know there's a peer review. We have listened to you.
Engineers that walk catch basin on 40 that was.
I'm gonna read, no, Kevin, I spent many years as a court stenographer. You may or may not have known that. Know how to keep a poker face. I am going to refrain from all comments.
Sure.
There is a reason why we did this.
I appreciate
And hopefully, go home, read it. We're all available. You can email us directly. There is a process. We followed the process and we stepped in when we felt it was necessary. Okay. You're welcome. Yes. Could you just speak up? I'm sorry.
13 minutes.
Yes.
I'd like to bring it to the attention again, similar to what Kevin said. It looked a heck of a lot of storm.
Okay, that's why I said I wasn't really going to take a ton of comments. Please read.
This will be very
Okay.
brief. Because I doubt that they're mentioning anything about underground streams, which have been asked several times to do a hydro study. Andrew's group just rolled it off of me. Brought it here to the attention of the board of select. Consider it, I think. I didn't get a yes from you. And I'm still very worried about that. Because if there are underground streams, we don't know about the type of the streams. And that's going to be making some winners and losers on this. That's what I'm afraid of. And we should still consider doing the hydro study to know what the hell is running under that ground. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Conservation is in the middle of another study. They also hired an outside counsel. Did you know?
No, they, a peer review consultant,
A peer review consultant
yes.
who is, I thought, doing a petrolatum study.
They're reviewing the, under, state wetlands as well as, applicable local wetlands. They're reviewing, those necessary, regulations, so that the Conservation Commission can, make sure that wetlands and all those, resource areas are properly, permitted and identified.
Just say, send, if you have something you want to say, then send a letter to Mary Overhaul. That's what I did. So she has everything. And she will pass it on.
This is something around the wetlands.
Well, now that it's a new,
Several records have already been sent.
letting you know, it's another thing.
Right now, as I understand it, you can just file away every town wetland. We can address it by having zoning board deny the.
Yeah, why they approving, what exactly is, what concessions are they making?
I don't think ZBA has not got to the point where they have not made their final decision.
He's in there, he's sitting there saying, oh, Kevin this, Kevin that. It's like, anytime anybody goes up there with any reasonable objection, they just get to know. And I don't know, I'm very troubled.
I can tell you that there were reasons that the select board took the actions we took. We cannot control any other committee. And I'm not being glib, Kevin, but people run for reelection. And that's when, I gotta get out, my heart breaks for you.
Well,
Yeah, well, I do know firsthand how difficult it is, so it is heartbreaking. It's not anything any of us should go through. And I appreciate the fact that even with all of that going on, you have come forward to express your concerns, because it's a lot. And I appreciate your steadfastness with this issue. Would anybody else like to say anything?
It's really recommendations, we didn't mention it all, but.
Have you, it's an extensive, you might want to read all pages. Yeah. Does anybody have any other comments they'd like to make? If not, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll move that we adjourn.
Marcia?
Still has even questions or other things that I would address. Would it be a problem with results and you to get out?
He is the town's attorney. I think it would violate attorney-client privilege. I don't know for sure. Joe maybe, but
I mean,
maybe able
realistically,
to answer that, but realistically, that would be like me calling up the attorneys in Karen Reed's case and saying, because that's been in the news everywhere. Oh, could you tell me your opinion on this? They're gonna tell me to pound it. They're a type.
He'll be president at the next CBA.
Mr. Hill is out of the country at the time. Right now, I do not know when he will be back. The select board will be following up with him. This is not a one and done. We will be following up with his recommendations and consulting with him and seeing exactly what the ZBA does. And deciding how to move forward from there. Yes. He is representing the Board of Selectmen.
He's representing the select. So that's to make sure that you guys don't do something that's not right.
Yeah, we asked. Go ahead.
He's got a statement in there.
You speak. Yes.
I can address that.
Joe can address it better than I can.
The select board, as the chief executive officer, has the ability to retain legal counsel to advise the executive board, being the select board, on legal matters. That's how this assessment of the 40B record was done. The board asked him to provide the board with a report. So if anyone has any questions or topics or questions or comments, please submit them to me. And I mean, the main thing is, as he identified in this, he is not an engineer, and that there would be additional resources to investigate some of these that would have to be put into play, but the board would have to authorize that.
Would there be a conflict?
If someone reached out to try to retain him as legal counsel, that would be his decision. My familiarity with attorneys that then are representing the town, they would view that as a direct conflict and then would turn down any private requests.
But, as Joe said, feel free to, any comments or questions about the report, direct them to Joe. We will read through them and we'll direct them to Attorney Hill. This is not a one and done. he's advising us on what we can and can't do. And like I said, please read. There's a lot of detail in this report. You know, don't just skim it. I've been through it a couple of times. Okay? You're welcome.
Thank you, sorry, so. Excuse me, those things that I said.
No, because, those came in after he did the report. That's why I wanted to make sure that you submitted those to the ZBA and town planner. Because that is the official record. The ZBA is the official record.
Yeah, I thought you just intimated that he's, whatever he says, not go to.
No, if anyone has questions, no. If anyone has questions, comments, email me. I have to then consult with the board because we hired him for a specific task. It's up to the board then to expand that task to do additional things besides this.
So it's not necessarily that he won't see it, but that the board has to decide.
Correct. We have to, one of the things, once Mr. Hill is back, and this is also dependent on what happens on Wednesday night, is really identifying next steps. And, you know, that's one of the things that it's going to be a work in progress over the next week.
So my understanding is whatever goes on the website will end up in mass housing after a permit is issued, either with the commissions or without.
Whatever's on the website, that becomes an exhibit. Or let me back up. The town is listing out all the documents on the website as a convenience for the public to document the record. Any document that is submitted by the public becomes part of the record through the decision by being itemized as exhibits. That is then the basis for the ZBA to develop and issue the comprehensive permit, whether it's an approval or denial. That is what then goes to the state to, as the next step after a decision is filed. So the record is for the ZBA and making sure that all these things are out there so that if there is, say, any sort of legal challenge to a comprehensive permit, that record is established.
Standard. In fact, it's on so many things, you can set it its own. Blank stares, fairly listed. This is good, thank you for getting legal stuff maybe in front of Andrews. That represents what he's heard from homeowners.
As I said, it's extensive. You cannot do this document justice by scanning it. Make sure you understand each word. It is a legal document. There is a lot of detail in it. He did a spectacular job. Yes, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn the meeting.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.